So he's got the product facing him this way, and he starts reading. I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to work with how low your voice is. Like, this is all I could think about. Like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
Came from very different backgrounds.
Be classy, be genuine, be grateful.
I wanted to help out and contribute and sort of give back to the people that had helped me.
Man, welcome to the intro. No need for introductions. All about the world and the world what we discussing. Where every single thought that we had came from something. So it's funny that we made it when we started here with nothing. Gotta open up your mind just to find out why. When you lost inside the dark, just gotta turn on the light. And no matter what you do, you never run from a fight. Because we fighting to be better, and that's why we strive.
Hi, I'm Corey McCain, CEO of We Strive, the #1 platform for personal trainers, gym owners, and coaches to both manage and scale their business. I'm your host for Why We Strive, where every Tuesday I sit down with some of the most incredible tech founders, investors, and creatives to find out how, when, where, and why they strive. Be sure you tune in every single Tuesday and check us out at whywestrive.com for more info. Now, let's get to this week's episode. Well, sweet. All right, here we go. Episode 9. I'm excited to have you on here. We met, well, this is our first time meeting.
Yeah.
I went to a VC like host kind of like founder thing on Thursday, met your dad, and then he's like, my son's doing really cool things. And then here we are 4 days later.
Yeah. So I was meeting with investors in California, and then our favorite flight line, which we won't mention, sent me a message that my flights were delayed a day.
Nice.
And so I called my dad and said, hey, I need you in Austin in like 3 hours.
Nice.
So he headed over here and went to that event that Kelly had for Bridge Bank. So
yeah, so cool. It was such a fun event, and I was sitting next to him for like an hour, so he told me a lot about your company, and so I'm excited to kind of dive into it. And convenient timing that you had to come to Austin anyway, so here we are. So what is your background before we get into Edsoma? It's Edsoma, pronounced that right?
Yeah, that's
okay, cool.
right.
Before we break down what Edsoma is, what is your background, and then we'll lead into like why you got into the education space.
Sure. My background, I don't have any education. I got kicked out of school in grade 9.
I love that.
Literacy was a challenge for me, but my mom was really inspirational in the sense where it's like, if you dream it, you can become it kind of thing. And I just started, starting businesses. The first few failed dramatically. And then I started getting some traction. I built a couple businesses, was able to sell them. I acquired some businesses, sold them. Actually, during COVID, the whole shutdown, I just started an entertainment company. We did our first event the week before they shut COVID down in America, kind of thing. So I was like, wow, I don't have a job. And then all of a sudden, this opportunity knocked on my door to like build products for the state of California. So we ended up like buying the Pepsi Cola factory in Puerto Rico, flying there, disassembling it.
What kind of products were you building?
Like PPE goods, like sanitizers.
Oh, gotcha.
Safety equipment kind of thing. So we disassembled the factory, put it in crates, and shipped it to Memphis, Tennessee. So
wait, the factory already had this PPE gear in it?
No, it was just equipment that had been sitting there, so it was for sale, and we could literally buy it at a extremely discounted price. And ship it to the U.S.
And then when it got to the U.S., then you started making the PPE gear with that?
Yeah, so we set up the plant, 2 facilities, over 200,000 square feet of manufacturing floor. And then while we were doing that, a lot of companies like gave up on their customers and started like chasing those big dollars because the governments were paying, top dollar for products that you would typically source out of China for pennies. So I identified that, and then we started like picking up all those manufacturers' businesses that they started putting on the hold on the back burner, so like car care products and stuff like that. So that after COVID slowed down, we had that
very cool
other offshoot business to continue carrying it.
Are you still doing any of those businesses?
No. So I went from that. I was literally sitting in my office in Memphis. I have 2 kids in Canada, and my daughter called me and she's like, Dad, I miss bedtime stories.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
And, yeah, and as a dad, like who hadn't, at this point, I hadn't seen my kids in person in over a year because
because of COVID. Oh God, I've had friends that got separated over Canadian border too. That's so, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like legitimate. Like when you heard of those stories of people being separated from their families, for me, I lived it. You know what I mean? I had at that time a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old that I hadn't got to see in a year. And excuse me, when they come to you and they're just like, "This is what I miss the most," you just feel like it's your duty to give it to them. So. I started looking for products that would allow me to have that engagement with my kid, and we found something. There's a few things out there that will allow you to stream and share, you know, and let you play games, and they're great products. I'm not taking anything away from those companies. They did a great job. One of them was the #1 downloaded app during COVID on the Apple iStore. But what they didn't have was a resource for people like myself that were scared of literacy or weren't sure if they were doing it correctly. So all of a sudden when you like start trying to teach somebody something and you don't know how to do it, like for me, I just panicked. And I'm like, if I'm the first line of defense for education for my children during this shutdown, my kids are doomed. So
that's right, because you not only did you want to read to them just in general, but like there was no people reading to them in general.
And
gotcha.
typically, like there's like typically the kids that needed it most came from families that couldn't afford a private tutor or any of that stuff. And the kids that really didn't need it, those parents continued on giving them private education, private tutors and whatnot through COVID. So I started to really identify that the educational gap was just becoming further and further apart. And then, you know, with everything going on and the chaos and the news and, you know, all the stuff going on during COVID, I was like, we can't afford our world to be any dumber. You know, so
that's a good
I was just like, I've got to figure out something to help teach kids how to read that isn't going to drain somebody's bank account. And that's how we came up with Edsoma. So Edsoma stands for Education Social Marketplace.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
What we do is we have a voice recognition patent pending technology that identifies weaknesses in readers in real time while sharing content through video streaming. So you can call your grandma in China and have her read to you, and we will identify the weaknesses in the reader. So while the child's reading, we log their reading and give them a score. And then as the parent reads to them, we can also do that. So it's a tool made for children, but it was a tool made for parents that also suffered from those same issues. So they could take part in those activities and be confident that they weren't, you know, doing it wrong.
And what is the benefit? I'm thinking about all the angles you just mentioned of how it benefits people. So if I'm a parent reading to the kid, does the kid benefit from seeing how the parents, I don't want to say messing up, but like kind of not saying it correctly, or how does that work?
Yeah, so say it's on a tablet. The book's being shared between the devices or in person on a single device. As you read, our words light up. So you get that instant gratification. As you read a word, it turns green. As you start to struggle on the word, it'll slow down, turn to red. It'll break down into syllables. If you can't sound it out or continue to struggle on it, you can select the word. It'll enunciate it for you. And then our AI puts that in a work bucket, and then we provide content surrounding those word breakdowns in the next pieces of content that we suggest.
Okay. And is the content you're suggesting content that you guys create? Or I guess take a step back. Are you guys creating all of this content, or is it like, you know, I don't know. I can't think of a single kid's book. Okay, gotcha.
We license the content from publishers. So right now, as it sits at this very second on today, we have 88 titles. If you ask me the question next week, we have some big announcements. But this
won't air for another like month, so because we're squeezing this one in, so you know we'll see what we can put up on the screen.
So by this time next month, we may or may not be the largest children's e-streaming content provider in the world. May or may not.
Very cool. Maybe I'll get like you to send like a video in like we did or something like that to update it. And I might intentionally push this episode back so we can get that live.
We'll know tomorrow exactly how all that works down.
So
it'll be super easy.
incredible. Okay. So then kind of tying to what you just said, you guys, I feel like you guys have like a lot of publicity. Again, I've only had like 3 days with this concept, but like I went to your website. There was a lot of hype. We'll get on one of your investors really soon. Raised a lot of money on WeFunder. So we got like a lot of like things here. So like, what have you guys done to get so much publicity?
Just something good.
Okay.
When I started this, I was making a lot of money. I've always been good at making money. That's something that I knew how to do. For some reason, I've been gifted with that. But this is like the first thing I've ever done where it wasn't about money. It was just about building something better for the future. And with Edsoma, I feel like there's such a need for it. As soon as somebody hears what we're doing, they're like, let me give you my resources, just like yourself. Like, let me give you my audience. We believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I'll give you a couple examples. When we shut down the entertainment company due to COVID, I went to my financial controller. I'm like, hey, dude, we ain't got no work. We ain't got no job.
Yeah.
Let me get back to you when COVID. I thought it was going to be like a couple weeks. You know what I mean? I'm like, my lawyer called me. He's like, prepare for, you know, a cold winter. And I'm like, dude, I'll see you in a month. I never thought it was going to turn into what it did. So.
Oh, I thought you meant your company. You like COVID itself.
Yeah.
Course,
so like I had
it's
laid
insane.
off some employees and after we went through it for a while and my daughter asked me to build this, I called my controller from the entertainment company and I was like, hey, do you happen to know anybody that was in technology? And he's like, well, actually, I was employee number 8 at Nextel.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so you've been involved in it in a small way, you know, completely changed the telecommunications network. And then he was able to like bring their first developer at Nextel over. His name's Steve Burton. He's the architect behind our whole platform.
So cool.
I'm like, Steve, you know what would be so great if we had like a teacher to validate what we're doing? He's like, well, actually, my mom holds a PhD in early children's literacy.
Nice.
She sits on multiple boards in the state of California with the education sector. So, you know, and had this resume that would blow your mind on education built around reading.
So cool.
So that door opened, and then like people would just, you know, in passing, we ended up getting like one of the VPs of McKesson from their sales division to come over and start sales from us.
So cool.
The guy that leads our content, we've got 2 of them, inbound and outbound content. One was the president of children's content for Simon & Schuster.
Okay.
One was the COO and VP, or sorry, the other one was the VP of relations for HMH, which is like the largest education provider in content. They provide 45% of this all content for schools. So like, we've just been
like a super team,
super blessed to have everybody. And I'm like, every time they come, I'm like, we can't afford to pay you near what you are getting now. And they're like, I just want to be involved. I've made money my whole life. I just want to do something good.
Yeah, very cool.
So we've got this super team that makes less than like the employees at McDonald's.
Nice.
So
very cool. I love that. Wait, so how big is the team right now?
We had our second all hands meeting today online, and there was 19 people.
Okay, very cool.
In 3 different countries.
Very cool. Okay. And so when it comes to like, I'm trying to think of which thing to talk about first. So we'll talk about the WeFunder really quick. So you guys have like $500,000 right now on WeFunder. Very cool. Had you raised money before that, or was that your own personal money that went into the company?
So I don't have a tech background. I want to be very clear on that. I build businesses and I can put people together. Henry Ford said that you don't have to know everything, you just have to know the people that do know everything. And I followed that model very strictly. But myself and another person named Matt Lowe, I called him. I'm like, hey, Matt, I got this great idea. I think we can do it for $25,000 each.
Yeah.
And he's like, sure. So we each wrote a check to the company for $25,000. A couple months later, I'm like, well, I think we're gonna need another $25,000.
Yeah.
And then after we started like seeing all the traction, I'm like, look, we can either walk away right now, call it a wash, or we're each going to need to put $1 million in. And he's like, let's do it. So we did that. That's been able to carry the company for 18 months.
Okay.
We've never wrote an invoice. We have 19 employees. But now the WeFunder, we're starting to get a lot of traction. At first, I'm like, this raising money is for the birds. I don't know how to do this. And
I mean, even the people that I interview in tech, we're just like making it up as we go. Like it's very
man. Whoever is good at raising money, please call me, because this is like, it's for the birds.
And people watching this, I know people that watch this that will be good at raising money, so maybe they'll reach out. I don't know.
But the more that people see what we do, the WeFunder thing's been great because it's like this guerrilla marketing aspect. You know, these people come in because and like when you look at the comments, and I never understood why people read the comments on like social media. I'm like, why would you spend your time doing that?
Yeah, that's a lot.
But like reading the comments in WeFunder, these people are investing, $100, $200, $250, $500. And the reason they're doing it is because my sister can't read, or because my cousin can't read, or, I think that this area needs support. So it's like just so inspirational to listen to why people are getting behind it. So you see that. And these people, I'm not saying that $100 to some of these people is a lot of money.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So to see them believe in something so much that they're willing to put their hard-earned money into it, it just means so much more. And don't get me wrong, we are grateful when we've had a couple people come and do a couple $100,000 through WeFunder.
Of course,
we're super grateful for that. But I know that $100 means just as much to those people as the $100,000 does to other people. So it's just a cool experience.
Very cool. Yeah, I did WeFunder years ago, and we were like so early and not doing that well. So like I only raised like 50,000. So maybe I'll do it again. But either way, definitely cool to see you guys doing that right now. And so did you have the $1 million just from like the PPE company that you had, or like you just had that like in the dirt somewhere buried, or like where
Yeah, the COVID was good. You know what I mean? Like if you could be creative on how to do business during COVID, there was a lot of ability to make money.
There we go.
I really don't know how else to explain it outside of that.
That's
there was just a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you, like someone needed to be selling these masks, and you went down there and took advantage. Like
literally, that's how it was. Like I literally was talking to my wife. I'm like, we don't have a job. Neither of us. She was going to school.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, this is how much we've got to live on, which it wasn't. It was better than a lot of people at that time, but. A friend called me. He's like, hey, they're going to shut down my job site unless I can find these masks. Do you know where they are? I'm like, I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Yeah.
And literally I hung up that phone call, and I had another friend call me, and he's like, hey, I've got all these masks. Do you know how to sell them? I'm like,
that's crazy.
Give me 5 minutes.
That's
like literally within that transaction, somebody wrote me a check for $60,000. Like it was that quick. And then as long as you went out and hustled and, there was money there to be made.
That is crazy. Okay. Were you guys making them, or what were you guys doing?
We were just everything you could imagine. So it took a while to make masks, right? You had to get certified,
Gotcha.
FDA certified for that. So that wasn't just an instant.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of that stuff, like the government has rules and regulations, I'm sure for their reasons. Some of their policies are their own worst enemies.
Yeah.
But you saw like even governments be like normal in the time of panic. They're like, these are our policies, but throw them over their shoulder. Like, we just need this stuff to continue going, right? So, and it was, people were desperate. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that every transaction we made was heartwarming. You know what I mean? When you're selling a 3-cent mask for $1, you know that, you could do better. But at the same sense, like, I've got a family to feed too.
Exactly.
So, and you didn't know how long it was going to last. By this point, we were like 6 months in, and I'm like, my savings is gone. I've got to do something. Yeah,
you're like, any day now, like the COVID could just be done. And
and I'm Canadian, right? So I didn't get a COVID relief check.
Oh, gotcha.
I had no opportunities. I had no unemployment. I had nothing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
interesting. I didn't know you guys didn't have that. Okay, gotcha.
Well, I lived in America, right? I'd been in America for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, double edged right there. Wow,
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, and then let's touch on So what's the story? Your dad said this. What's the story with Shaq? So like, is Shaq an investor? Is he like advertising for you? Like the general commercials? Like what's the situation there?
So he's an investor. Sits on the board.
Whoa, what?
And he's looking after our marketing. So he's a huge marketing partner.
Yeah.
It was like a long shot. Like I was saying earlier, my VP of sales, his name's Bon. He came from McKesson. And he's like, hey, you know who would be perfect for this? Shaq. And I'm like, yeah, just let me get my phone out.
Same, yeah.
I'll just call him up. And literally like, our phones listen to us, okay? Let's just be very clear on that. Our phones listen to us. If you think that you're not being watched, we're all being watched. Yeah. So all of a sudden on my LinkedIn, Perry pops up, who's Shaquille's agent.
Wow.
I'm like, well, it's a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Send him a message on LinkedIn. And I got a response back, believe it or not. And
wait, just because I wanted like people to like learn a strategy from this, because I've definitely not been good at this part. Did you reach out to him saying, hey, I want Shaq to invest? Did you say, hey, he'd like this? Like, what did you say?
No, I never asked anything from anybody. They just get defensive. But I was like, hey, we know that Shaquille's in the education markets.
Yeah.
We've created a really cool platform. We'd love to get it in front of them, and maybe we could pay you guys to advertise it.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Okay.
So we reached out to them to market our platform, and knowing like if you do your research too on whoever you're talking to before you talk to them. Shaquille doesn't market anything that he doesn't believe in.
He has too much money to do that. Yeah.
Well, every commercial that you see of Shaquille's, I'm not going to say everyone, but the majority of them, he has stock in all those companies.
Oh, yeah.
He's an investor in those businesses. When he bought Ring, he had installed it at his house, and he's like, this is a cool thing. I want to be an owner. Like, find this guy kind of thing. So when he believes in something, he really gets behind it. But Perry's a great guy. He responded back to me, told me I was full of shit. And he said, if this is true, what you guys do, I want you to prove it. So I said, let me fly out there. I can be there this week. And I took him the product.
You took Perry or took Shaq?
I flew out to Perry's office in Las Vegas and took him the product. And I said, here you go, try it out. And he started reading, and it started doing exactly what we said. And he's like, we get 1,000 emails a day, and most people can't deliver on what they're asking. And you were here, as fast as humanly possible. Let me set up a meeting with Shaquille. And so it was like a month later, maybe. We flew back out to Las Vegas, and I don't know if you've ever seen the guy in person.
I've seen him once in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, on New Year's Eve or like New Year's Eve week, and he's like the most. I missed meeting him. All my friends met him. I missed meeting him because I had to work. But then I came into the bar later. I saw him sitting down, and it was like the biggest guy I've ever seen.
He's bigger than life, and if he was playing ball, he was like quite a bit. Smaller,
you're right. Yeah.
I think we all get a little broader with age, kind of thing. But he's bigger than life itself. This guy's over 7 feet tall. His shoulders are, this wide. He's a big human. And we had tested our app on every type of voice I had thought until he starts talking. Yeah. And then he's like, well, let me see the product, or as deep as you can. Yeah. And you're like, well, here you go. And he was in front of me, so he's got the product facing him this way. And he starts reading. I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to work with how low your voice is. Like, this is all I could think about. Like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And as he starts reading, you could tell it was working by how big his eyes were getting. So as he read out loud, it started doing it. And then he would purposely make mistakes and he would correct them. And at the end of it, he's just like, I want in, so.
So cool, man. Oh.
If you think like, I've always, like, back to my mom, if you believe that you can do it, you can do it. And like I said, Vaughn's just like here, but I think we need Shaq. So, and here we go. We've got him on board. Wow. He's 100% behind it. And I think as like a brand or an image, we couldn't ask for somebody with a bigger heart or, the right reasons to get behind things. So
he's literally, him or like The Rock would be two, like just the exact same, like just bigger than life. But then also, have a lot of money, a lot of influence, a lot of experience, and then are also just like, good people too.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Okay, well, congrats to you guys.
Yeah, thanks. And like my VP of sales, Saban, not to throw him under the bus, he's like this little fanboy. Like he was calling, like, when are we going? When are we going? Can I come? And I'm like, but Vaughn had played basketball. So short story, totally off topic. Vaughn gets offered a full ride scholarship to Stanford. Okay. And Vaughn's in his 50s, so just to kind of put the time on when this was, Memphis had just finished winning national title in college basketball, and he turned down his full ride scholarship for Stanford to go play ball for Memphis.
Oh, God. Okay. Was Stanford back then?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Stanford was always been.
I didn't know Stanford's like in the last 30 years become Stanford.
No, Stanford was Stanford then too, but now it's just like
Stanford. Yeah.
So like the Shaquille thing, it's like we've just started talking about it, and we'll get like calls from like friends of friends that are like, "Hey, we're interested in investing. I grew up and I went to school at LSU. Is it true that Shaquille's on?" Like, I'll invest strictly because Shaquille is from LSU.
Interesting. Where, as far as investors go right now, like, are you? Because it's funny because you are now like definitely in the tech world. So you're like, you guys have like a pitch deck and everything. Or like, okay, gotcha.
We're 18 months into this.
Okay,
now.
gotcha. Yeah.
I feel like I know. Let me be strategic on how to say this. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I've gotten a routine down on how to go about raising money. We've got a lead investor outside. Like when we close our WeFund round, our entire seed round is for $5 million, a $5 million seed. But we wanted to test the waters on investment right away. So we did the $1,070,000 based off of what their qualifications were to do that. And then after we got it launched, we started doing the internal audits so we could validate
go to the
everything.
next 5. Yeah.
So our entire seed round's actually $5 million raise. And we've got a lead investor already with it. We've got the majority of the money raised.
Very cool. Okay. That's all. Congrats, man. Yeah, we actually had we had the episode 2, we had the CEO of Stonks on here.
They've reached out to us.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
There
Before I've ever seen that, but they've reached out to us. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, John was just in here a few weeks ago. So if you guys ever, they work with Weedfender. So if you ever want to intro John, he'd love to, talk to you guys too.
Yeah. We had gone to multiple other crowdfunding campaigns, and it was like that. It's like the standard story. I don't know if it's just like the line that they're told to tell everybody, but you're too early. You know what I mean? Yeah. How many founders have heard that? You're just a little too early for us. Well, it says right here that you like to invest in companies pre-revenue, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we'd still like to see some revenue.
Yeah, exactly,
so pre-revenue means you need to have some revenue.
And with that, where are you guys at revenue-wise right now?
0. We haven't even launched.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We're piloting in 28 schools this year.
So cool.
Closed pilot. We just really want to make sure that we have the user experience built out to what the schools need. We do have a consumer model that we're allowing people to test. It's free right now.
Cool.
But it's just for testing purposes. We've got it on Android and iOS devices. We're also on Chromebooks.
Cool.
But we're just testing.
Very cool. I'm 2 things. One, is that open for anyone to download? Like, can we put a link on that in the podcast? Or
yeah, I can give you a link to our download platform. It'll be on our website, but they have access to all 3 versions of it.
Very cool. And the second thing was similar concept. Like, I like the idea of like making sure that you're ready before you just blow things up. Like we just expanded to enterprise this week. Actually, we have the product finally done, but we have a big partner, but I'm gonna let the couple of small enterprise companies that we're working with, the gyms, for a few months, make sure it's working before like I waste any potential intros from our big partner. It's like give it a year at the schools, make sure it's working, then just go crazy like that. Yeah.
We know that every founder needs to be confident in their product. We know our product's good.
Yeah.
We've validated it on multiple different opportunities, but there's still bugs that you need to work out. And even you can be sitting there looking somebody in the eyes and say, I need you to test it for 1, 2, 3. And they're going to look back at you and say, well, what about 7 and 8? You know what I mean? After you just finished identifying that 7 and 8 aren't working. So you only get that one shot, especially in education. We're not going to be like, hey, I screwed up teaching your kid last week. Will you give me a second chance? Nobody's going to do that.
Exactly.
So we're just being really cautious right now.
Well, that's the only thing about having an app as a fellow app founder. It's like you can, with the 1, 2, 3 thing, 1, 2, 3 can be working for 1,000 students, and then the 1,000th first 1, 2, 3 doesn't work for some reason. And you're just like, why is that not working?
And it usually like, and I'm sure you've had this happen, but like when we went into pitch,
it's when you're pitching.
Yeah,
it's always when you're pitching.
So when we went into pitch Shaquille,
yeah,
it had worked every day.
Yeah,
and then I get on the plane the night before, and I'm like, Steve, I just tested the app, it's not working. And he's like, oh, I was hoping you wouldn't look, kind of thing. And I'm like,
wow,
I need this working by morning.
Yeah.
So like he literally called me like 5 minutes before the meeting, and he's like, hey, it's up. Like,
nice. Oh man, dude. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Well, not really anymore because our app's great now. But like in the early days, how many times I would like pull up the app to show like our MVP to an investor, and it just wouldn't even let me sign in. And I'd be like, okay, never mind. So like so many times. So how do you guys even get started building an app that has AI speech? Like I know a lot about coding and tech and everything like that, but like I don't even, how does AI work in that sense? And you don't have to answer if the dev guy runs that side.
Yeah, no, I can let everybody know how much I don't know about technology right now.
Fair enough.
We have gathered, a lot of stuff, and I've learned all this, so like non-technical founders that have an idea, when you go to the table and you think like, oh, we've got to build this from scratch, that's not really what an app is anymore. They take a lot of different pieces and put them together to make, you know, what we call an app. And there was like a lot of APIs that we were able to reach out to kind of get us a head start. I'm not going to mention our streaming API that we partnered with because we've recently are in the process of switching.
Okay, fair enough.
But, you know, understanding what the streaming API was like a big lift, right? And then it was great. But like I said, those doors, we've recently, Zoom came to us and is like, you guys can have whatever you want to join our platform.
Very cool. Was that the thing that's not public yet, or?
It's all, we're just in the process of changing it out. So by the time this aired, it'll already be live.
It'll be live through Zoom?
Platform. Yeah.
Wow. So, is it going to be like opening up a literal Zoom window, or is it like Zoom powered?
So we will run Zoom streaming platform will be through our app. They've got an API streaming device.
Yeah.
Zoom's got a lot of stuff that you would never know about.
They have like a whole marketplace or something like that.
Yeah,
I like
CRM, all kinds of stuff, and a really good one at that. But Zoom's like the leader in video streaming. So when they heard about it, they reached out to us and they're like, hey, we've heard about this thing. We'd like to get to know about it. And like they've been so great. Like their CTOs helping us implement everything. Like we've got every major piece of
so cool
advice or talent that they have to offer. They've been an awesome company to work with.
It's good to know because when we put up pause because we were about to launch it before COVID actually kind of like slowed down. So we were going to launch a live video feature for like personal training and fitness and gyms and everything, and we put that on pause, but Zoom was one of our top 2 options, so that's good to know that they were good to work with and for the future if we ever did that.
Yeah, they're great, and they've been super exciting and helpful, and like there's a lot of things that you wouldn't know. So like Zoom has its own venture fund, you know what I mean? So like when you start to work with these APIs that are bigger APIs, it really opens up the door for future communications. You know, we didn't know they had a venture fund, but all of a sudden, you know, when you've got like the CTO of their company involved, all of a sudden they're like, hey, you know, we could fund your project for you.
That's genius. Yeah.
And these opportunities are huge. So like as a founder with an idea, be careful who you hire. We originally hired a company out of India that was, you know, had great reviews, and they ripped us off for like $60,000. And it wasn't the money that burnt me; it was the year of my life I lost.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, in doing that, we were able to find our own team. So, you know, non-technical founders, just do your due diligence. There are people that'll help you out. You don't need to know everything, and they can really dumb it down and make it make sense for you, because I could hardly send an email when this all started.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is tough though. Like, I'm also a non-technical founder, and I got screwed over by a company in my hometown. They screwed me over. They just like, they promised all these things, and the app finally launched, and I'm like, I can't open it. Like, what's going on here? So it is so tough for non-technical founders, because there are people that you can talk to, but it's like, how do you know that those people aren't also incompetent? It's just like this never-ending, like, incompetent situation. So
one of the things that really made me do this, and I'm going to say this, I'm not political. I'm from Canada. I don't even have an opinion. But during COVID, I felt like the whole world was lying to me.
Yeah.
But all I wanted to do was like tell everybody there is good people out there. We're not all full of like, hateful people in our world. There is good people out there. So don't just walk outside and think the world's trying to rob you. Still put trust in humanity. It's not a bad place.
That's true. Edsoma right there. Boom. There you go.
Yeah, trust humanity. It's a good place.
What are some of the features of your app? So we have like obviously the translation and when you're speaking and the editing and live. Is there like, do you have a profile? Can you add people? Like, what are the other situations?
Yeah, so we have a whole family network. So Edsoma social. The social aspects are closed networking platforms. So you can read if it's at home, you can have up to 4 users on the device at one time with you to share through your closed family network. Our school platform, we can have up to 50 students in a class at one time.
Very cool.
But we're launching a feature with Zoom in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Book Fair in October, and it's called Live Library. And our authors will be able to read to our children. They'll be able to participate in the reading live through our platform. So we've got a couple celebrity authors that will be reading on our platform at Frankfurt. Cool. So that's going to be really cool. And we're really excited about that. It's just been a great experience, and Zoom has really walked us through that. So
that's so cool. Awesome. Shout out to Zoom, I guess. I don't know. There you go.
Zoom.
So two questions from that. What is your target market? Is it that school classroom working with like 25 kids, or is it that consumer like calling someone in Canada when they're in the US?
Man,
or you're gonna find out.
No, we learn a lot every day.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, our target market isn't who we wanted it to be. Or let me reword this: our lowest cost of entry isn't who we thought it was going to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ultimately, even if you're a business to B2B platform, the end user is still your customer. So even when we're selling to schools, our customer is the child using it or the parent allowing their kid to engage on it. So we have to really build our product around a youth content user, right?
Yeah.
So, our platform's focused on K through 4 right now. So we really built it to engage and interact with them, but we also have to make it mature enough that parents trust that it's doing the right thing, right? So we have a B2B model that's, really cost effective, direct to, we're going into private and charter schools to start with. The public sectors are a lot harder to get into that. But one of the things that I promised myself I would do, I refer to it as like sell my soul. So I promised myself that I would never sell my soul. This would never be about money. It would always be about the user. So one of the things that we're going to make sure is that we have a platform that we can still control. And I don't mean control by cents or anything, but we don't take government money, so we don't have to allow them to decide for us. We can we can offer what our customer wants, which is ultimately the parents of the children. So that's how we, our model's working right now, is making sure that we provide usability for them.
Very cool. No, I love that. I mean, that's a true point too. Like, people always, especially in the B2B world, are like, like if I'm targeting gyms, it's like, I need the gyms to be happy, but like if a client gets the app at the end user level and it sucks, then they're going to complain to the gym, and then that'll come back to me. And so it's like, you really do have to nail both those sides. And sometimes it's even more important to have, like, you could have a shitty experience for the teacher, as long as all the kids love it. Maybe that's the best way to do it.
It's like both. So we're in trying to take on two old worlds, okay?
Yeah.
And shout out to all my teachers. Like, we couldn't do this without you by any means, but it's old. Like, schools was designed to build workers to work in factories. If you like dive into like how school started, I think it was like Andrew Carnegie and J.D. Rockefeller put money together to start a school to get people smart enough to go work in their factories.
I think I saw like a documentary on that or something like that a while ago. Yeah.
So like if you think about it, like back then they started building manufacturing workers. They're still doing that today. So, but it's just because that's the platform that teachers have to teach on. Like it's not that teachers want to do that. It's that that's the platform they're given to teach on. So, like I said, shout out to our teachers. They've been given a tough card. But the other one's publishing. You know what I mean? When you tell a publisher, like when we're going in and collecting content for our platform, they're like, "You're going to do what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is how we're going to display your content." And they're like, "But that's not a book." You know what I mean? And they're just like two old worlds that are really, really slow to evolve. You know, and I think now that the thing for the education network is that COVID slowed them down so much that they're going to need to depend on technology a little bit to catch them up. And it like weeded out all the teachers that were getting ready to retire. You know, the ones that, you know, it just screwed up two different worlds. And there's the world's struggling, or America's struggling for teachers right now. We're down thousands, if not tens of thousands of teachers this year. So.
And I mean, you gotta feel for them too. I mean, they were already underpaid. They already had so many like difficulties, and then I couldn't imagine. Like I have friends that I'd see on Instagram during COVID, like teaching their class. Like they'd be showing me the setup, and it's like it's crazy, man. So.
Yeah, and then like you go to schools and teachers, if you don't believe that a teacher does this for the right reasons, like really dive into it before you get down a teacher's throat. Like I know a lot of teachers, especially getting into this, that pay for school supplies out of their own pocket. They don't make very much money. Like you can literally make more money at Chick-fil-A right now than you can being a teacher. That's sad. You know what I mean? And that's no BS. You can make more money at Chick-fil-A than you can teaching our future. That they're something broken there.
Exactly.
So you know, we hope that we can use technology to do that. And so the MA on Edsoma for the marketplace is to be able to provide teachers resources into their classroom without having to pull money out of their pockets. So
I love that.
As we start to grow into classrooms, we'll be able to give teachers some credits to help.
So cool. And you guys can do so many awesome things, especially once you're starting to like make more money and scale. Like you just said, like so many different, like, you know, thing like charities you could open, or you can give back to teachers in this way, or like do that. So that's really cool. You guys can do that. That's awesome.
And like when we were saying, like our lowest cost of entry is like, we're a literacy tool. That's what we built our entire model around. And when I say like our cheapest cost to market is a market that we don't want to focus on because it's literacy is so important to us, but we get downloaded every day from testers that are using us as English as a second language. So
very cool. And it's a whole nother world, man.
Whole other market, right? And it's just naturally doing that, and our like customer cost of acquisition for that is like pennies.
Really?
So
that's interesting, man. I mean, we just launching next week like 5 new languages on our app, and I can tell you like people really want to be able to like use. I mean, I use Duolingo I used to use every day. I'm really slacking, but I mean, the app world for languages is really interesting, and I'm trying to think how you guys could do that.
That was one of the sales pitches, like when Shaq's like, so he's like, let me get this straight. You're going to teach me to read in Spanish. So we can, like, we're right now launching content in English, but in the next 12 months, we will probably be in 5 other languages. We can literally use our technology in every spoken language that you can translate on a phone.
That is so cool. And do you guys have like voice actors, or is it all AI?
So it's all AI. So like, well, I say that. We've been super fortunate. We've partnered with a company, I think they're out of Ireland, called Soapbox. Anyway, Soapbox Labs, and they were like the world leader for speech recognition for children. So they had done, you know, all the testing on like different speeches and speech sounds, and that's why I was worried. Like I'm like I don't know if they tested on Shaq. Did you guys test Shaq? Yeah. You know, Ricky or Richie, is this gonna work? Did you test Shaq? But you know, so they had millions of hours logged with children's
So
voices.
cool.
So we use them to partner with to really.
So cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys had that in-house or not. And actually, my next question is about your teams. Like, what is the... Well, you actually kind of already mentioned it. So you have actually, can you just do it? 'Cause okay.
Yeah, so there's top down, there's myself,
Yeah.
who's supposed to be the CEO. I show up and
There you go.
talk to
Yeah,
everybody.
you put in work and see what
I
happens.
put in work and
Yeah.
see what happens for sure.
Yeah.
I throw stuff at the wall.
There you go.
We've got Dr. Diane Burton, who's our chief education officer.
Was that your one of your employees' moms?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha,
PhD
okay,
in
gotcha.
early children's literacy.
Cool.
We also have Steve, who's our architect. Brian, who is head of technology. Enrique runs finance. Kevin, my dad, who you met, looks after HR and our legal stuff. There's a lot of contracts in this. Looks after that and deals with our attorneys. I think we have 5 different specialty attorneys just to make sure that we do everything right.
Is that because you're working? Because I have another question. Perfect. That is that because you're working with kids? Is that really...
working with kids,
Yeah.
working with schools, working with content? They're all
Yeah.
different professions, right? So like you have
Yeah.
to understand publishing. You have to understand privacy. Like they're just different specialties.
And that's
So
not a thing where you like how Uber. We mentioned this a few times on the podcast. Like when you're in a tech company, you're like, let's just do it, and if we get in trouble, it'll be a slap in the wrist. You can't do that with kids. Like,
No.
like you can. I think there's an episode in Silicon Valley where he buys the company and didn't realize that like they didn't do a certain policy, so he has to pay $5,000 for every under 13-year-old kid, and it was like $20 million or something like that. So. Yeah, you're not in an industry where you can just dick around like
and
that.
like
Yeah.
no parent, I promise you, no parent's gonna be like, okay, you screwed up my kid last week, here, have another shot. Like,
Exactly.
no parent is gonna do that.
Yeah.
When you're collecting data, we don't need to give away data on our kids. The world's gonna. I don't know a good word to use.
The
words I want to use are not right, but they're going to take advantage of that data as soon as physically possible.
Yeah.
And they're going to make them a walking marketing tool from what I think the legal age is like 13 where they can start collecting that stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's very protected. So we have a lot of I's to dot and a lot of T's to cross. So
What age group are you particularly working with?
right now we're K through 4. So we're like
Gotcha.
the youngest minds in the world.
Interesting. Is there? So I know there's a lot of HR and stuff like that. Is there like government regulation? Because like, if you think about it, like any educational app could be like, screwing with our current educational system if it's not good. So like, is there government policies you have to follow? Like, how does that work?
It's really tough to break into those barriers.
Yeah.
A lot of testing, usually it comes from like a recommendation from a teacher, and then they'll go through a procedure to make sure and vet it. Another company that we had to partner with through this whole thing was a company called Clever. They kind of vet. It's like a standard for schools. They'll go in and you have to get vetted by Clever first in order to be approved to go into a lot of districts. They kind of do the vetting process, and then once you're approved by Clever, you can go in and anybody starting an ed app, I'm dropping some bombs here. So like,
Yeah, it's good to know.
they'll go in and do the vetting to make sure that you can go into the next steps.
Very cool. We said that. I was like, I have multiple friends going into the education space, so I'll definitely send them this episode when it goes live. So interesting. What is your guys' number one focus right now? Is it making the app better content, better funnels to get schools? Like, what are you guys like top of mind right now? Or all? Yeah.
I'm trying to think the answer without saying all, but
Yeah.
like because we've been super fortunate enough to collect the talent that we have people that can really focus on all those like individually important parts pieces. Strengthening our speech is always something that we prioritize.
What is so strengthening the?
In order to be a credible educational app, you've got to convert words at 98%.
Okay.
So like you can't screw up. If a child reads the word "the," it needs to hear the word "the." You know what I mean? So you can't screw. And there's like just different accents, like or a. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
or Shaq. Yeah.
There's a difference.
That's super
that.
deep voice. Yeah.
So and then like, yeah, the English language is just a jacked up language. It's really hard.
Well, you got like Boston, New York, and like it's just like that's I never thought about that.
And then like we have to build our speech engine, so like you almost like put a geo field up around a location where you're going to hear this or you're going to hear that. You know what I mean? So it's
interesting.
Just really, we were actually voted by VentureBeat like last week.
Oh, there you go.
Top 10 AI softwares.
Oh,
why did
I see that? Is that on your website? I saw that article for some reason. Maybe I just added you on LinkedIn and then I saw it right away or something like that.
Yeah, it could have been.
Like that could have been because I just saw that. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
When you first started, like, how did you know this was a problem you were solving aside from your own personal situation?
It was never supposed to be a business. I literally did it to be connected with my daughter.
Yeah.
It wasn't a business. It wasn't like. I built it and I'm like, I'm going to, I've got enough money saved. I can, spend the next year catching up with my kids. And when I started telling people what I was doing, it just like started like really opening my eyes around it. Like I was at the Conor McGregor fight, the last one it was. So that like gives you a hard date of when I made up my mind. It was at the Conor McGregor fight. And I was talking to this guy named Mitch and he had just got back from being deployed. And I'm like, I'm trying to stay connected with my kids. What's the government use to keep you engaged with your family?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
While you're on the road, they've got to have something. It's the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, we get a box of donated books
Yeah.
sent to us. We get to pick one, film it on a thumbstick, and send it home. I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm fixing this problem. You know what I mean? Like,
wow, that's a big market too.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
we get our market's like.
Anybody that reads. Yeah.
But it's just anybody that reads, but like think of this way, you know what I mean? You're deployed defending our country, wondering what your kids are doing, feeling like you're missing out on everything, not being involved in their education, not reading them stories at night. And I don't care. Every child loves hearing stories in bed. Like I don't care who you are. They love that. You know what I mean? You go to kindergarten and you walk into the teacher giving them story time. They love it. They're not a single one's making a sound during those moments. It's so important. So think about the people that are away defending our country, missing on that, the guilt that they must feel. So if we could give that back to them, give them that. How much better could they focus on their job, which is already dangerous enough? How much better could they focus?
Damn, man. You give me like tingles talking about that.
And then like we're working with prison systems to implement it to parents that have been disconnected from their families, having it make it an easier connection for them to connect with their children, stay involved with them, make the re-entry back into their homes easier. Like we're just working with so many different groups. Sports teams, they can be on the road and still say goodnight to their child, read them a book before they go play their sport. Like
I love that, man.
Such a huge market for it.
Yeah, I mean, like truckers on the road. I mean, like everything I can think of, people are on the road. Interesting. Okay. And do you guys? I mean, I know you guys are doing this like in a very wholesome way, but obviously, like competitors still exist, whether you're like a charity or not, or a real business or venture.
We have competitors, and our competitors. Our competitors are very good at what they're doing, and we're not trying to take that from them.
Okay.
You can have what you're doing; it's yours. We're gonna do what we're doing. I feel like we found enough of a niche market. We're two different products, hyped up on steroids, that I don't feel like we're gonna take away from either of those industries. But it's gonna work for us.
Is the MA? You said that stands for marketplace, right? What is it? Is it a marketplace of books, or did that word
marketplace
change?
Of resources for our teachers? Like you've always got to have like. There's three barriers, I think, when you're going into a market. One is availability. The other is cost and ease, or how do you make my life better or easier, right? Yeah. So teachers are the same way, you know what I mean? They're already underpaid. They're stressed out. They don't want to learn how to do something new already. They're, you know what I mean? They're maxed out. So we were like, well, how can we bring value to a teacher that's already struggling, that's already... maxed out her bandwidth. What can we do to give back to them? So we're like, let's make it so they don't have to pay pulling money out of their pockets anymore. let's provide them a credit program where they get credits for using our platform so they can keep their hard-earned money in their pockets. And we will provide them school resources. This is like in our third rollout is the marketplace. We have to start somewhere, but you know, in the next 2 years we'll have
like
the
your whole
marketplace
business
rolled
model is like on your shirt.
It's rolled out. It's very black.
And the green is when you start
education
making,
first, social second. So there's like we've had like this great response. We met with like Microsoft. Some of the people at Microsoft were like, hey, you know, we want to gamify our learning journey. Would you guys be interested in partnering with your avatars and our platform, gamify or reward children for education, allow them to connect in our closed marketplace in your worlds? And they're like, why didn't we think of this before? You know what I mean? So we're even engaging with Microsoft on that level. You know what I mean? So like, it's just
very cool.
The whole thing. So that's the gamification of it. And then, like I said, the marketplace, if you think about it, Amazon started with books. We're just Amazon of 2020. They started, 20 years ago and made what they needed to be today. And brand identification is a real thing. I play golf. I watch Bryson DeChambeau. He's my favorite golfer.
Okay.
I wear Puma golf stuff because Bryson wears Puma golf stuff.
Okay.
I know that's why. I didn't like it before he started wearing it. Now that he wears it, I'm all of a sudden, this shirt's badass. Is it badass or does Bryson wear it? Let's just call a spade a spade. So, as you grow as a brand and bring value to people's lives, they're going to trust in you, just like Amazon. Amazon went to their customers and said, what do you want next? We've sold you books for 5 years. What do you want next? And their responses was like, we want a hairdryer or a microwave. I need, gas money. Whatever it was that they were looking for that day, they wanted Amazon to sell. And that's how Amazon came to be. They listened to their customer. They obsessed over their customer. So we're going to do that. But our customer's 5 years old. So we're going to obsess over our customer.
Very cool. And you mentioned the We Fun video. You want to create like an ecosystem around Edsoma. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Is like
the same. So Web3 is a reality. It's not going to stop. Remember when they said the internet was going to break and we'd all stop using it? Web3 is the same thing. It's not going away. We either accept it or get left behind. But I feel like we have a responsibility to teach children what they're about to walk into.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I learned differently than a lot of people. When I was like, oh, I think crypto is going to be so cool. I invested $20,000 into crypto, was playing with it, and then all of a sudden pushed a couple wrong buttons and some dude stole my crypto wallet. You know what I mean? And that was the reality. I know so many people. They're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. You know what I mean?
Me too. I didn't happen to me, but I know a lot of people that it did happen to.
Yeah. So like we have to educate our children to be prepared for this stuff. Because there is, I still believe trust the world, but there is people out there that are trying to get you. You know what I mean? So we just got to make sure that they understand what they're getting into.
Very cool. And last question here. First of all, awesome interview so far. It's been so great sitting down with you, man. What is next for Edsoma? Like, what are you guys? I mean, we kind of already covered this, but like, what's the big thing that you're really excited for, besides Shaq?
Man, I'm not going to take anything away from Shaquille. I'm super excited to be in business with Shaquille, but like, no offense, Shaquille, it's not even on like the top 5 greatest things that we've done this year.
Yeah, very cool.
You know what I mean? Like, he brings a lot of value to our company. But if you look at the small things on how big they really could be, there's a lot there that we're missing. You know what I mean? What if one day the President of the United States walks up and says, I need to thank Edsoma for teaching me to read?
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a Joe Biden situation for sure.
That's so much bigger than anything we've got going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the reality. Like, one day, your Joe Biden joke cracks me up. And it made me think of something else. So we used to have this slogan where it said, not all leaders are readers, but or sorry, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. And then you know the Joe Biden thing there. I'm like, well, maybe not all readers are readers. But I just want to change a life, give somebody an opportunity. If we had more time, I could take you down these rabbit holes that would blow your mind. You know what I mean? I've been there. I've done that. I've got the postcard. I can speak firsthand from almost any experience I think a child could go through. It's built me into who I am today, and I'm super grateful for it. Every experience that I had to go through, good or bad, but it just made me realize that I could probably get in front of a lot of these kids and help them before they make those same mistakes I made.
Well, I would love to, like in a year from now, have you back on and just like see where you guys have gone. I mean, you guys are pre-revenue now. Next year's gonna be crazy for you, I feel like.
Yeah, we're leaving. I was supposed to leave Saturday.
So it's Tuesday right now.
I was supposed to leave last Saturday, so Tuesday.
Gotcha.
My visa got messed up. I was supposed to leave the Saturday after Kelly's event.
Gotcha, okay.
And my visa got messed up, but there's an initiative in India right now where they're trying to take the entire country from a grade 4 reading level to a grade 6. They think it'll increase
With the like people that aren't like 40-year-olds, stuff like that, or what do you mean?
just like the working population. So they think by increasing the working population in American reading, American English, literacy or English as a second language, that it'll increase national GDP by $6.6 trillion a year, just by elevating it 2 grade levels. Wow. So we've been approached by some people within the government of India to come implement our technology through their school sectors. So we're headed there next. Vaughn is going to be more or less living in India for the next little bit. But cool. We've got that. And then there's 37 states just said that they weren't going to let kids pass the 3rd grade. So we've got all kinds of kids we got to help right now.
I feel like you guys, I'm blessed to have you on here right now because I feel like as of like tomorrow, you guys are gonna be too busy to do podcasts. So
no, man, I don't forget where I came from ever. All Texas. This wouldn't be available if you let your head get too big. You know what I mean? You need to remember what your roots are and the people that help you on the way up. You know, I was just as excited to come here, you know, based off your network, you know, your event, your networking event.
You'll be there tomorrow, right?
Yeah. You know, so to go out and meet these people. I moved here 5 years ago, like small story. So before I moved from Canada, I got the oil field tanked. I owned an oil field company. My biggest customer went bankrupt, lost $4.5 million. And I ended up selling off all my assets to pay off our debt. Through that, I ended up getting divorced. Gave my house to my ex-wife and my kids to keep them housed, and moved down here with a pickup truck 4 years ago. That's all I had.
Damn.
5 years ago. That's all I had. So in 5 years, with hard work and dedication, I built and sold 2 businesses. And I've been working on this for 18 months, and we have 19 employees. We're being told by some of our investors that they believe our company's worth $25 million. And I've done all this in 5 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, just head down, ass up, and
do it. Very cool, man. I mean, I think a lot of people that are going to be watching this are in the ed space, and definitely will enjoy it. And I'm excited. Wait, when does the WeFunder close?
So it was supposed to close already, but we filmed a TV show. It's called America's Real Deal. It airs October 8th on Fox Business.
Wow, very cool. Okay.
So we were asked to extend it. So we've extended it to October 15th.
Let me see when this episode airs. I mean, I can just move this to whenever you want. I don't really care. So we'll figure out when the best time for you is, and I'll put it on there. Sweet, man. Yeah, hopefully this will be live when that's live on Fox. And
yeah,
very cool.
So it's like, it was super neat experience. We met our lead investor on that show. We met the guy that introduced us to our lead investor on that show. The host was Marie Osmond.
Oh, very cool.
She was super educational. I've never been on TV. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
But it was a unique experience.
So cool.
For sure. And then since then, actually we're filming with Mark Randolph next week, I think. And Mark, those who don't know Mark Randolph, he created a small company called Netflix.
I had no idea.
No?
Yeah.
So he's the original CEO and founder of Netflix. Now he does a TV show called That's Not Gonna Work.
Wow. Okay.
And we're filming with him next week.
So cool, man. You were just doing a lot of stuff, man.
I've got a really good PR lady. I need to shout her out, Nadia. She's done amazing things for us. She grinds it out. She was the first. So I was the first person, I guess, working for the company. She was the second.
Very cool.
So before we even had an app, I hired a public relations person because I knew that they needed to get us in front of this. In order to be held, when you're trying to walk into markets that people don't know you, it's really hard. You know what I mean? VCs invest on people that get introductions to or can feel like they're a credible person. So
Exactly.
you need to be prepared to air all your dirty laundry, get out there so people can see that you're not hiding anything, and get in front of it. So I just, I wanted to make sure that we had somebody that could represent our company, align with what our core values were, and really put us in front of people to pick us apart.
There you go. Well, it's been awesome, man. I'm excited to watch all of your guys' progress throughout the future. And I'm assuming at some point we'll have you on here again. So,
yeah, I appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much. Awesome, dude. That's great. I wanted to thank you for watching this entire episode of Why We Strive. Be sure you head to whywestrive.com and subscribe so every Tuesday you can see incredible interviews with some of the best tech founders, investors, and creatives in the industry. Have an amazing day, and don't forget to keep striving.